Today we're going to be installing some fog lights on a 2022 Ram 2500 that does not have fog lights. It has the little cover. So we're going to be removing that and putting in the fog light and the bracket and the new bezel trim. Now before we start, I just want to show you these came off a 2019 1500, so the 5th generation, and I was going to try and use these, but the 2500 parts are clearly different. So these are both the right hand side over here, and you can see that the bezel's different and the bracket is different. So this one has like a different side profile. It doesn't fit in the 2500 truck. See, this is more flat. This one has this 90-degree turn on it. So the brackets do not work from the 1500 to the 2500, and the bezels do not work either. So you need to make sure you have the 2500 parts before you do this job. I was able to repurpose the lights, the actual light themselves, and the wiring harness I'm going to cut and repurpose. First step is going to be to remove the bezel. This is the back side of it. You're going to have 5 of these. So there's 2 on the bottom. There's 2 up top here. And then there's 1 over on the side. So this is the right hand side one. So on the left side, it would be just reversed. So 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top, 1 on the side. You don't need to fully remove them. You just need to loosen them so that these little bolts can wiggle. And then you can pop this bezel out. These are 8mm. So now the trim bezel cover has been removed. We're going to install these U-nut clips. These are M8 by 1.25. You can get these on Amazon. I only had 4, so I had to order 4 more off Amazon. But these are going to go on these. All right, so you want this part to face out. So you're just going to slide it like this, just like that. But you can see how there's those 4 clips. So there's 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top, and that is what your fog light bracket is going to attach to. Once you have those U-nut clips installed, remember there's 4 of them in there that we talked about, you're going to get your bezel and just slide it in. Put the outside edge in first, and then just push your clips in. And there's those 3 clips that are going to hold it in place. Then you're going to get underneath and you're going to reattach those slip nuts. I'm going to show you how these slip nuts go in. There's like a little slot, so you have this little square edge. Right, you want to have it up high enough. It's going to slide in that slot just like that. And all you do is tighten them down. So I kind of hand tighten them. And then I go back with 8mm. You can use a socket. If you want to use a wrench, you can on some of these, but socket's pretty easy to use. So there's 2 up top, there's 2 on the bottom, and there's 1 on the side. Once you have that bezel clipped back in, you got your 4 U-nuts there. You're going to take your bracket. You want to orient it so that the light is facing towards the inside of the truck, not the outside. That's the only way it fits. You're going to slide it into place, and then you're going to use the 4 10mm bolts there. All right, so 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top. I'm going to bolt those in and show you what that looks like. This is what it looks like with all those bolts into the bracket there. You can see the fog light coming out the back. There's 4 bolts holding that in place. That was these little bolts. Right, they go into those M8 by 1.25 U-nut clips. So these bolts have a 10mm head on them. You just fasten them in. The top one up in the top corner there, I didn't have clearance for the socket wrench, so I did have to use a 10mm wrench on that. This is what it looks like when the trim and the light are installed. You know, these are factory parts. So to have the factory fog light, the factory bezel, the factory bracket, you know, there's a lot of aftermarket parts you can get. Some of them include all those pieces, right? But I'm trying to keep everything like it would be from the factory, right? So I'm going to run these to the BCM, and then I'm going to install a factory headlight switch that has the fog light switch in it, and then I'm going to use AlphaOBD to change the settings in the computer so that we can get these fog lights to work. All right, so I repurposed this wire harness off of a 2019 Ram 1500. It had a factory wire connector. It was like a big gray piece. I'll show that to you later. But I just got this 3-wire connector off Amazon, and so I cut that factory piece off. I wired this one on. I'm going to tape it up real good, but it is watertight. It's got these rubber grommets in the back. All right. And then this part of the harness went right to the light. This, I'm going to use the other piece of the connector and run 3 wires. So it's going to go to the BCM. And once I go past like the battery, I'm going to split the ground off and ground it there, and then run the remaining 2 wires to the BCM and connect those, and I'll show you that later. But then these, I just ran it behind the frame of the bumper, across the back under that grill there, around the frame of the bumper here, and then you can see I left this one unconnected here so I could show you, but this just goes in and you want the red part out. Alright, so I'm connecting to this. Make sure that's good and clipped in. Then you got these little guys that you can plug into these little holes. Alright, so wherever you can reach those, you just push them in. And you're going to work your way across the frame doing that. And then any place where you can't connect them, just zip tie them. In order to get access to the light switch and the BCM, probably a good idea just to remove this. You can get your trim, little lever here, and just start popping that out. Alright, so once you have this clearance, you're going to be able to see in here, and you can see the BCM right in there. Alright, so I'm reaching in through the hole, and there's a little clip, a little push tab right above the gray piece. Alright, so I'm going to push with that, and simultaneously I'm going to reach up with my other hand from underneath and move that gray piece up. Alright, so now you can see that gray piece is flipped up, and now you can just pull that out. And then I'm also going to release these 2 in the center, just so I can pull this wire harness towards me, and it'll give me a little more room to work. So you can see here I have removed the clip. So the far left empty slot there, that's C1. And then I removed the 2 in the middle next to it, and then you can see all the way to the right there's still a wire harness with a clip plugged in. That's C4. That one's going to be a little bit harder to get to. But if you look down below that, there's this white clip, and I broke mine. So there's like a black clip with a zip tie that goes around the wire harness for C1 and the 2 middle ones. And when I pulled it out, that white one broke. I'm not too worried about that. All right, so I was able to release those connectors, and here is C1. All right, so I'm going to open that up and run the wires to it. But there's also these other 2 that I pulled down. All right, this one and this one. There's just clips on top, so you can just press them with your hand. They're on the top side. You just got to reach up there from under the dash, press on the back side, and pull it out on both of those. On the bottom of this C1 connector, there's that little black tab right there on the top left, right there where my thumb's at. So you got to get like a little screwdriver. You're going to push that in, or push it towards the outside rather, and at the same time kind of pry that center piece with the wires in it out, right towards you. Right, here is the C1 connector exposed. You can see that top one is the number 1. That's where you're going to put the wire in. It's going to go in that slot right there. The top corner where it says 1.
this is for the left fog light. So this is your yellow and white wire. I'm just going to be using a yellow wire. But if you have a harness with the yellow and white wire, that's going to connect over to your left fog light. Here is the rest of that clip once it's removed. Right, so we can see, when you're up there in the dash, you can't see it, right? But there's that little push tab. You're going to push, when you push that in, you can release and lift this up here. Right, so it looks like that. So you got to push it and release. And that's how you get it to free up from the BCM. So I was able to find an easy way to disconnect that C4. So what I did was I used my trim tool and I started prying down here, and I released this side panel. And I put my arm with my screwdriver through here, and I looked through the side here, and I could, if I got at the right angle, I could see the C4 connector. And then I just pushed the release tab with my screwdriver, and it caused enough play in that gray lever to where it lifted up a little bit to cover that tab, that push tab, and then I was able to reach back in and push the gray piece up the rest of the way with my hand to release it, and then just pull out the C4 connector. All right, so I'm behind the brake pedal right now. So if you look up, go under the dash, back the brake pedal, go to the back, you look up, and there's like a hole right there where you can reach your right hand up in. Right, so what I did was I reached my right hand up through that hole. I put my left hand in through the light switch opening in the dash, and I grabbed that C4 connector with my left hand, and I fed it down using my left and right hand until I could go below. Right, so I'm below that opening, kind of see I'm in the back behind the brake pedal to kind of over, not, the pin is like behind the emergency brake lever there. So you can see the lever itself, the little angle of it. All right, so that's about the best spot I could find to work with it. So I'm going to release that white housing off of it, and then I'm going to run the orange and white wire that goes to the right fog light. And that goes to the number 13 position on that wiring connector. I ran the wires through my firewall here at the parking brake. I'm going to seal that up with some silicone on the outside to make sure it's watertight. And then I ran them to these little connectors here. I used some shrink wrap, and I just put some white electrical tape on it just because the wires on the other end and the harness are yellow and white and orange and white, so I just wanted them to match. Right, these connectors are from Mouser Electronics. I will put the link in the comments, in the description for the video, but you can get them at Mouser Electronics. I rerouted this wire, I tucked it up behind. I wanted it to follow the path of the wire harness for the C1 connector. That's where it's going to be plugged into. So it is following it. I had to cut back the shrink wrap a little bit because it wouldn't slide in all the way. So when you do this, make sure you don't go too far up on it. It needs to have enough room to go all the way up in. You can kind of see where I had to end here on the clip. All right, so here you can see in the very back there, those harnesses going up. There's way in the back. So that C1 is plugged in. You got the two middle ones plugged in. And all the way over on the right, kind of hard to see it, there it is, C4. So C4, you got the middle ones, and C1. Remember, yellow goes to the 1 position on C1, orange goes to the 13 position on C4. Now I also kind of just tucked everything in, nice and neat back here. You can see my yellow and orange wires. They're tucked back in behind different wiring harnesses, and then they go out the firewall where the parking brake is. Next thing I'm going to do is take out this factory switch that doesn't have the fog lamps and swap it out for this one that does. All right, so if you just go to the back side, there's a couple little retaining pins here. Just push them in on both sides. All right, just did that one-handed, so shouldn't be too hard for you. Take that out, put the other one in. Right, one-handed job, easy peasy. So here I connected the wire back to the back of that switch. Now I'm just gonna push it right back in. Right, now I got a new switch. with my fog lights. All right, so this is the bed light, that's the fog light. And then I'm gonna close up my hatch over here on the side. All right. And now the rest of what I have to do until it's time to use AlphaOBD is gonna happen on the exterior of the vehicle. Here you can see the wires coming out the back side of the firewall. I'm gonna put them in this split wire loom. I'm gonna run them around the back side here through this body panel, the fender, and I'm gonna bring it out under here. I'm gonna ground the black wire here, add it to my wire loom, and then run all three down to the fog lights, and then I'll show you what that looks like when I'm done. I tried to run a pretty clean install here. You can see the wire loom coming up out of the firewall there by the parking brake cable. Tucked it in behind this, kind of fished it through this opening in the fender panel. All right, so it goes like through here and comes out right around where this ground is, so that's pretty convenient. So then I tapped in, here's my wire loom. I got my black wire now with a ground connector behind this bolt, and that runs, the wire loom runs right down to where the fog lights are going to connect. All right, so here is the wire harness that came down. This is now wired directly to the BCM, and then it's clipped into my other connector that I made to my factory wire harness for the fog lights. All right, so you just have to make sure the orange lines up with orange, yellow lines up with yellow, black lines up with black, clip them together real good. I'm gonna go ahead and tape these ends up, so make sure they seal up really good on both ends. I'm gonna use some little ties to fasten that in there. Right, some zip ties to fasten it up so it's out of the way. Okay, but otherwise, this is done. Now all that's left is to get this to work with the BCM. Next, we are going to install the security bypass cable. So you need to use a 7mm hex to remove the screws out of this panel. There are two, there's one on each side on the bottom. And you just kind of pull it loose. And then you're going to pop this module out. Now I've already gone and reinstalled the bypass cable. So this is the bypass cable. It runs and connects to the original module here. All right, so these clip together, and then you're going to feed the wires back behind. I popped my light switch back out so you can see. So run them back behind in here, and then you're just going to plug them in. There's one, there's the other one. They're going to plug into this little cam here, and I don't think it matters as long as it's just an open slot. After you're finished installing the security bypass cable, you're going to take your OBD adapter. I have this one by V-Link or MC Plus. A lot of people use OBD Link, so this one's a little cheaper. Does the same thing. I got it on Amazon. And you're gonna go under right here where you put your security bypass cable, and you're gonna plug this into it, and then you're gonna see that it's gonna start lighting up. Now you're gonna go over to the Play Store, and you're going to go to AlphaOBD, and you're looking for this guy here, AlphaOBD. I've already paid for it. It's like $50. So you're going to install it, and then you're going to open it up. Now you need to turn the auxiliary power to the truck on. So turn the ignition on, but do not start the motor. And you're going to pair and connect your OBD link. Mine's this V-linker here. It's connecting. Right, so that says connected. I click on that Dodge Ram. It says Ram 2500 here in this drop down, so you have different options. You got different options here. We're going to click on body computer, where it says select control unit. You're going to go down to your model year. So mine's a 2022. So I'm going to click this one. And then I want to click connect. Okay. Once it's connected, You're going to go over to where in the bottom right corner you see some different icons. There's a battery, there's a check engine, we see a car with its hood up. So we're going to click on that car. And where it says select procedure to start, you're going to click on that, scroll all the way down, and then scroll back up to where it says car configuration change. And then you're going to scroll down where it says select option. And I've already scrolled down to where it says CBC config IO, connector A pin 01, and connector D pin 13, front fog lamps output present. Right? There's a lot of menus in here, so it takes a little bit to scroll down and find that. But once you get there, click on it, and where it says select value, you're going to click yes, and then you're going to hit start, and then you're going to hit next, and then you're going to give it a few seconds. It's going to run through its process, and then you're going to get a message here that says procedure completed. All right, from here, if you have LED fog lamps, you can go back up to this menu. You're going to scroll up until you see CBC features. And you want to go to the one that says LED front fog lamps present. So you can click on that, select value, click on yes, start, next, let it run through until you get your procedure completed message. Now there's one other thing you can do with these, and that is to turn on the setting that allows your fog lamps to stay on when your bright lights are turned on. So factory default, and I think it might be a law in a lot of states, is that when you turn your bright lights on, the fog lamps go off. Right? But you can go into the settings and change that if you want to have the fog lights stay on when the brights go on, so you can use those together. You know, this feature could be really good when you're off-roading. But you're going to click on this and you're going to scroll up a little bit further. And you see the one that says CBC features front fog lamp dropout enabled. So you're going to click on that. Click no, because you don't want it enabled. You're going to click start. You're going to run through the settings. I've already done it, so I'm not going to get the message again, but you're just waiting until you get that message that says procedure completed. From here, you're finished with AlphaOBD. You can go ahead and unplug your OBD link. Right? Don't need that anymore. And you can go ahead and turn off the app. All right, let's test out those fog lights. So you need to turn the engine on. You're going to go over and turn your lights on. You're going to click on the fog light button. Right? And you want to go ahead and make sure your light is illuminated where it says fog lamps. Right? That's on, that's off, that's on. So we're going to go and go outside and see if the fog lights are on. All right, fog lights are on here. That's the driver's side. That's the passenger side, so I'm good. I'm gonna go back in and turn the brights on and then come out and check it to see if these lights are still on. I'm gonna go ahead and put these brights on. It's a good sign because my fog light and my bright are both on there. So that should mean that I'm good. Right. And when I look, fog light's on both sides when my bright lights are on. That's pretty much it. So you might need to adjust those fog lights to get them at the right height, the right angle. So there is an adjustment knob on the light itself. You'll see that on the fog lights when you're putting them in. It's like a little dial. So you can use that to adjust the lights up and down to get them to the right spot so you're not blinding oncoming traffic. But hope your install went well. If you like this video, please send me a like and a subscribe to support the channel.